And as we continue to cover this story, Fox News shared this just last night, saying investigators towed a vehicle from Nancy Guthrie's property just last night. Earlier, FBI agents were seen inside the home's garage where a blue SUV was parked. Now, we also heard from President Trump as he spoke aboard Air Force One just yesterday. And here's a quote from Trump saying, "We have some clues, I think, that are very strong, and I think we could have some answers coming up fairly soon. I'm not talking about a search. I'm talking about a solution. A lot has taken place in the last couple of hours." A few more social media posts we wanted to share with you here, and these are the latest posts from the Pima County Sheriff's Office last night, showing they're investigating that new message regarding Guthrie. And they also shared this map that we're putting up on your screen saying investigators are conducting follow-up at the Guthrie home and in surrounding areas. The roadway in front of that home currently restricted to provide investigator space. A lot to discuss here, so we want to bring in Donte Mills. He is a federal defense attorney at Mills Legal, LLC. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning. We do appreciate it.
Christy, thank you for having me.
So there's a lot of questions here, as we continue to watch all of this unfold. From a legal standpoint, what questions do you still have at this moment that you want answered?
What an interesting case. There are a lot of questions. So what we really have to focus on is the person communicating through these letters that they're sending to media outlets, are they really the person who did the kidnapping? That's the most important question you want to try to verify. It's interesting because the family is using the media also to communicate with them because there is no direct line of communication. So you see them putting out statements, putting out videos and reading statements so they can communicate with the capture and let them know they're willing to engage in conversation. They just need to make sure that their mother is still alive and that they're obviously willing then to meet the demands of these captures. It should be noted, though, that this is a very serious criminal offense. Obviously, when you talk about kidnapping, but it's even more serious if you talk about murder. So I think that the kidnappers hopefully understand that it's better for them to release Miss Guthrie alive so that even if they're caught, there's a possibility that they won't face murder charges, just kidnapping charges, which will be less. And also, lastly, for anyone that's sending out notes or ransom notes who are just trying to capitalize on this tragic event and they don't, in fact, have Miss Guthrie, they should be aware that there's criminal charges associated with that as well. Even if they didn't do the kidnapping, it's extortion to put out a letter making a demand for something, even if you don't have what you're saying you have in return.
Right. And federal prosecutors did charge a California man with sending a fake ransom note in an effort to extort Savannah Guthrie and her siblings. So we do know that was Derek Calleja, and he's accused of demanding a ransom across state lines and using anonymous telecommunications to abuse, threaten, or harass the Guthrie family. But my question for you, how do ransom notes sent to media outlets factor into a potential criminal case compared to notes that are sent privately to a family? What's the distinction there?
Yeah, so the slight distinction could be that it could make it a federal crime when you talk about sending something across state lines, when you put it out into the public. If it's something that occurs within one state, generally it would be a state crime and the state would have the authority and the ability to investigate that and charge. When you make it a federal crime, it does open up more resources because the federal government is going to have more resources in the state. So when you communicate across state lines or send those letters across state lines where you just talked about the charges that they've put on the one person that they knew the letter was fake, you are increasing the chances, in fact, that you're going to get caught because now there's more resources to put to this investigation. The charges are not more severe because they're severe charges in state court, but in federal court, you're just talking about the mass unit of the federal government behind this investigation.
Now, Donte, I did want to switch the post here that is on the screen back to this statement from President Trump, because he's saying we have some clues that he thinks are very strong, could have some answers there soon. Now, we also did see earlier that President Trump offered federal support. This is a high-profile case. A lot of the nation is keeping a close eye on this. We're having President Trump offering his support there. Once investigators find this person they believe is responsible for this alleged abduction, how quickly could we see charges and then a trial? And I guess a two-part question for you here is, could that impact how quickly we see this move along, seeing that this is so high profile, seeing President Trump weighing in on all of this?
Yes, there had to be an expectation from these kidnappers that this would turn into a high profile matter just because of who the family is. But I don't know if they believe that it would make it to this level where you have the president of the United States weighing in and fully pledging his support. That has to put them on edge and make them nervous because the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, is the best investigators in the world. And if they slipped up at all, nobody does anything perfectly. One slip up, if you have the FBI and the full president of support looking into that investigation, that could lead them to you. So I know it makes them much more nervous. Now, one thing that we should mention is there's a lot of people that's been missing over the years. And some people are saying, why is this such a high profile case? Well, when you have people in the public, you want those crimes to be investigated and you want them to be solved because you don't want the public to believe that, man, no matter what, even if it's a high profile person, they can't solve these crimes. So I have no chance if something happens to me. That's why it's important for these crimes to be solved because they're in the public, because they're in the limelight, and you want the American people to have that trust in our system that if we investigate, we can get answers. That calms everybody down and makes everybody feel safe. So I hope that this ends in the right way where she's able to come home safe. They can find the captures, charge them, and convict them of the crimes they committed.
Now, what legal thresholds must investigators really meet there, though, before escalating searches or securing new warrants tied to these ransom notes that we have been seeing?
Yeah, so it's going to be tricky because they don't want to jump the gun, especially when the goal is to have Nancy Guthrie home alive. And what they don't want to do is jump the gun and even spook the people who have them into trying to, get away. So maybe they take her life because they don't think they can have an exchange where they can get away with it. So the investigators have to be careful. They want to follow every lead, which they're doing. Apparently, they got another note last night that led to more investigation. They went back to the house. We know that they took a vehicle from the home. Maybe the note included something that they may have left in the vehicle or something like that as proof that they're the ones who, in fact, committed this crime and that they have Nancy Guthrie. But the investigators want to follow leads, but not go too fast or jump the gun and scare the captures away or make it seem like there's a situation where they can't win. So they don't worry about getting her home safe and they just worry about protecting themselves.
And the family is still looking for proof of life there. But what challenges could that lead to if charges are eventually filed?
Well, I don't know if proof of life comes, that's a beneficial and positive thing. I don't know if that would complicate anything if charges do come. It gives another avenue of proof that if something comes from these captures and the fact the captures are the people who took Miss Nancy Guthrie, if they are captured, if they did some kind of video of proof for life, that's just another piece of evidence or proof that can be used to show that they are the ones that are behind this. That's why they may be a little apprehensive to do that because they know that any contact that they have, anything else that they give, there's going to be clues that come from it, whether it's location or whatever it is. There's clues that are going to come from any additional information that these captures give to the authorities. So I'm sure they're hesitant, but I don't know if that will be a negative thing in any way for the investigation or if they're charged for the criminal case because it's just more information and more ammunition to show that they were in fact the ones that committed the crime.
Now, another just question for you that I had, when ransom demands involve Bitcoin, how does that really affect the legal strategy on both sides, or does that really not have any impact?
It absolutely has impact because when you have criminal charges, when you're charging someone, it may seem obvious. Oh, we know that they did this. We know that they were the ones who, kidnapped Miss Guthrie. But you still have to walk through specific evidence. And when you talk about a kidnapping or a bribery or an exchange or ransom, you want to be able to trace the money and say, we know where the money went and it ended up with them. Bitcoin really complicates it because it's really hard to trace. I've had a lot of cases that involve Bitcoin. Once it hits that system, it can be bounced around and moved to different accounts, and it's really hard to follow. You can see maybe even what account it goes to another account number, but
That you think we should be discussing here that the viewers should know?
no, I think that the coverage here has been beneficial. I think it's really important for the families to get the word out there, to have a way to communicate with the captures, and they're doing that via the media, and I think it's a positive. I think the way that America is kind of galvanizing behind this and saying, no matter who it is, if someone is kidnapped or if someone is taken, we need to be behind them and move these investigations forward. I think that's good overall for the safety of our country and for us coming together. We just hope that this ends well, that she's able to come home safe. Whether or not a ransom is paid and they get away with taking the ransom, the number one priority is her coming home safe, and then the investigation and capturing them and charging them and hopefully convicting them thereafter.
Absolutely. And Donte, thank you so much for joining us this morning. As we continue to watch this, I'm sure we'll have you back. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good morning.